Hey guys, welcome to Sled Talk. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I would like to take a second of your time and introduce this season's title sponsor is Bikeman Performance. So they've decided to jump on board and help push the podcast. And if you're unaware, Bikeman is the elite level when it comes to aftermarket performance parts on your sled. So be sure to check out their site, link in the description. And without further ado, let's jump into the show.
Let the band play.
100K on the Protect, living life with no regrets. I can't designer when I get dressed. Hey. Summertime on winter fresh. I put her legs behind her head. Night she gone to bed. Bye bye. Every day it's a new test. I just keep chasing these checks. Living life with no regrets. Living life with no regrets. Living life with no regrets. Living life with no regrets.
Stop, collaborate, and listen. Smasher's back with a brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of him tightly. It flow like a harpoon daily and nightly. Whatever to stop. Yo, I don't know. Turn off the lights and SledSend will glow.
Oh! There we go. There's the intro to Sled Talk Part 2 with Chris Kaltenbacher, a.k.a. Smasher. Shay's back on this one again. Smasher, thank you for being here for another episode. We just came from lunch, and we're going to jump right back into this one. I think topic of conversation for Part 2, Smasher, I'm going to let you decide. We'll go the route of Iron Dog, or we'll go the route of Boondockers and some other stuff. Which
Iron Dog's off the hook.
Let's go.
I mean, you want to go? We got to go off Iron Dog.
Let's go into Iron Dog. So let's, I guess, take us through like the beginning of your interests, like what piqued your interest to even begin to pursue the idea of doing this crazy thing called the Iron Dog.
So it stems back from a lot of years. Like, well, we could go way back before the Stone Age.
Take us
so
there.
Todd Palin and JD Palin are hometown boys of Dillingham, Alaska, where I grew up. Mm-hmm. So even before they started, there was the Braswell boys, Leon and Gerald Braswell, that had wanted to do the Iron Dog, and then the Palins did the Iron Dog, and I kind of followed along. The Palins wanted to do the Iron Dog, and they did the Iron Dog, and then they won, and blah blah blah. And so I kind of sparked up an interest, like this is something cool. Like, this is off the hook, for them to do something like that. 2,500 miles across the state of Alaska, the frozen Arctic is just, it's kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. So, I'd always wanted to do a part of this. I'd be a part of this and do something with this. And, I kind of like played around with the idea, and I talked to a few buddies about it, talking to them, hey, would you guys want to be interested in doing this? And everybody's kind of like, how would this happen? Could we do it? And it's cold, and there's a lot to go into it behind the scenes, a whole lot. Right. And so Dustin Pancari from Climb had talked to me about this guy, Roger Brown. I'm kind of skipping ahead, but so it's probably been 15 years or so that I've been wanting to do this.
Okay.
So Dustin had pitched this to me like, hey, Roger Brown is part of the ambassador group, and it would like, he's looking for people, you need to contact him and blah, blah, blah. And so Dustin had kind of talked to Roger about it, and I thought, man, hey, if the opportunity ever arises, I'm going. Mm-hmm. Like, I want in on this. And so Roger Brown calls me and says, hey, I heard that you would like to do the Iron Dog. And I was like, I'm in. Like, I want to do this. And he's like, well, we're not racing, we're the ambassador, and it didn't matter. Sure. As long as I was in part of it and got to experience it, that's the direction I wanted to go. I mean, this is something that I don't know, just infatuated with, something other than what I've done. And you're hauling rear end across the state of Alaska at, sub-zero temperatures, and you get to go to all the villages, and growing up in a village, it seemed kind of cool. Mm-hmm. So, we planned it, and Roger invited me up. Dustin was part of it, 2 Polaris engineers, and away we went. And Roger Brown, this guy's a stud. I mean, he's a tough Alaskan, this boy. Yep. He just came off knee surgery. I think he had a meniscus tear, he told me. So he was giving me his sled. Arctic FX kicked in on that. SLP kicked on that. Voke kicked in on that. Who else kicked on that? Sled Solutions kicked on that. So they all kicked in some parts for that, and Roger built my sled. Like, he did everything for me. This guy built my sled. He got me ready. He told me everything. I mean, this guy this guy took care of me like I was a little kid.
Yeah.
It was very cool. Dustin was going to be part of it, part of Climb. Climb, of course, as of always, they took care of us. Got our jackets for us, all matching gear. Then we had 2 Polaris engineers. They were all riding 4 strokes, and away we went to Alaska, man. And just like smiles, like I'm this is the coolest. This is the coolest experience. So, we get up there, and as time goes on, I'm contacting Roger and going about this, and like what do we need for this, and so you get the list, and you got to go through an 18-page application to get involved in the into the Iron Dog. You got to have your CPR card, you got to have your medical card, you got to have it notarized by a notary. So it's no joke. Like, they're trying to weed out the people that don't want it. You got to watch I think it was a 6-hour rookie thing by Mike Morgan and Chris Olds about being a rookie and all that. And so watch all that, and start packing my stuff. And I'm talking to Chris Olds and Mike Morgan and Dustin and Roger, what to pack. And as a mountain rider, you bring a lot of gloves, you bring a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So anyways, I get all my stuff packed. Man, I can go into details for hours on this thing and get up to Alaska, and it's like coming to, like, this is really going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
We go to Todd Palin's house, and we start getting the sleds ready, and we go out on our first day. We work on some sleds the first night, and you want me to keep going on this, correct? Just keep rolling with it.
This whole episode is dedicated to this. So take us through it.
Dude, I feel like a rock star.
You are, brother.
So we go to Todd Palin's house, which is really cool. Todd Palin was super cool, and we go to his house. We work on the sleds with the Polaris engineers. We get it ready, and we go out on the first ride. And being from Alaska, they're like, "Hey, we're putting on face masks and this and that," and I'm like, "Oh, it's not that cold," And as a mountain rider, you go out in the cold, and it's cold for a little bit, but you start sweating and blah blah blah. So I don't put on a face mask like a ding dong I am, and I got frostbite on my cheeks. And frostbite
I've never seen the photo.
Yep, just dumb,
All
the
taped
first,
up after that,
the first day, and so we go out on a test ride, and everything's good. And then the next day we go in, we do all our checkpoints, and we're in there with the Iron Dog guys, and we go through all the stuff. And
So sorry to cut you off, but what type of sled?
Luckily I got Roger Brown's 850 XCR.
Okay.
She's smoking.
Yeah.
Oh, that thing is fun as heck. Roger and Dustin and 2 of the Polaris engineers were on the new Polaris 4 strokes, which were a little different, a little heavier, but they were on those. And so my sled, I got SLP skis, SLP weights, SLP clutching, Arctic FX wrap. Like, this thing, it's a mover.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we go in and we do all our checkpoint stuff, at the pregame, and we take care of all that. And then, race day comes, and it's really coming to, like, dude, we're really doing this. Like, this is the Iron Dog.
Yeah.
And as the ambassador group, we got to go out first, and we were ahead of the pro class by 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get to go out first, and it's cold, and I think that day, the day we went to breakfast, we're getting ready to go, I think the nerves really started to hit me.
Sure.
Like, this is 2,500 miles across the state of Alaska. You don't know what to expect. Yeah. Yeah, it's a real long ways on a 2,500 miles on a snowmobile.
About like 7 days, 7-8 days?
It was supposed to be, I think we were supposed to be at 10 days. We were supposed to be at 10 days because we were taking, we were ahead of the pro class. Mm-hmm. So we were supposed to be ahead of the pro class. We had 3 presentations. There were certain places we needed to be at certain times.
Yeah.
We were kind of breaking trail, making sure the trail was good, yada, yada, yada. The first day we take off, the weather is beautiful. A little cold, but it was beautiful. And we get 30 miles into the trip, and the sled breaks down. We got a helicopter crew there from, I can't remember their name, but they were there, the hybrid films, I think, hybrid films, and they were there filming and for Polaris, and sled breaks down. They got to tow the sled back 30 miles, and they leave me, Dustin, and Mike Brown, and the 2 Polaris engineers and Roger Brown go back to go fix the sled, and the 3 of us keep going to Puntilla, and we take off, and it's a great ride, like, beautiful. We get to Squintna, we text Roger Brown like, hey, can we keep going? Like, this is this is too cool. Hey, you know what? Dustin was the first person to get stuck on that ride.
Hey, Dustin.
He was the first person. He went to go turn around at Squinton because they were trying to film us coming in, and he got stuck. So he was the first person to get stuck. Yeah. You know, some people just weren't born to ride.
That's funny.
No, so anyways, we get to Squinton, and I texted Roger Brown like, hey, we're going to keep going. You know, can we keep going? He's like, yeah, you know, go on to Puntilla. And so me and Mike and Dustin keep going, and then Roger and the two Polaris engineers, they show up about 10 o'clock that night. And in Puntilla, you get a nice meal, a nice place to sleep. It's like a cabin and with a stove in it, and we all go to sleep. And the next day, you know, Roger's like, hey, we need to get up early. We need to get going. We need to get McGrath quick. So I think we were the second team out, and we woke up. It was snowing. You know, it's just so intriguing every morning. I'm like ready to go. Like, what do we have today? You know, it's cold. You're packing all your stuff. We eat a little breakfast, and we take off. And we catch up to the other group, and we go through the the lower Kuskokwim up through the mountain, the Alaska mountain range, and one of the Polaris guys smoked an A-arm.
Oh, no.
So that slowed us down, and of course, you know, everybody's passing us, and me, I'm kind of, you know, I get competitive, and I'm like, this is embarrassing, dude. Everybody's passing us, like, they're waving at us, we're like, yeah, we're fine, and so they all pass us, and we get the A-arms, you know, squared away, and we start going, and then the day clears up, you know, you're going up the Kuskokwim. It just, the mountains are just incredible. Yeah. Like sick. They're just massive, and you're going up this river. I posted one on my Instagram. I mean, it doesn't mean a lot to most people, but if you really watch it, it's just incredible. And so we go up, and we get close to Nikolai, and Roger smokes an A-arm, another A-arm, so we're fixed that, and a couple planes buzz us, and we're supposed to be in McGrath already. And we get to McGrath, I think, at like 10:30 that night. Mm-hmm. And so this is our second night. So our second night, you know, we're supposed to be already there. And we get there, and everybody else has already been there for hours, and they're chilling and relaxing. And Roger's like, hey, we're getting up early. We got to make it all the way to Unalakleet, which was, I think it was 430 miles.
Oh, my gosh. Holy smokes.
That's what Dustin was saying, and a couple of other guys were like, what the heck, you know? And so we wake up the next day, and I'm ready. Like, I am so excited. Maybe I'm just not right in my head or something.
A little twisted.
Yeah. So we go, and like, there's so much. I mean, I could go into hours of detail about this. Like, you're going down this. It's an old mining town, and there's this road, and the willow trees are grown over. So you're doing like 80 miles an hour. I'm following Roger on this 4-stroke. So I was right behind Roger, and these willow trees are smacking against your sled, and you're just going like a bat out of hell, and just going, and pretty soon there's drifts. And we had one guy that struggled a little bit. He was getting stuck off and on. So Dustin and Roger had said, hey, Smasher, you drop back and help. And I was like, oh, thanks for choosing me. All right.
See ya.
Sweet. Yeah, I'll go in the back and help out. And so we keep going. We go to Rudy, and then we go up the Yukon, up to Galena and Caltag. And, you know, it's 432 miles. Just incredible.
Crazy.
Yeah, going up the Yukon River. Yeah, I think I was following Roger, and my rule of thumb was at that speed, you know, doing about 80. So 2 seconds was too close, but 3 seconds was about right. Any more than 3 seconds, if you were 4 seconds, you'd lose sight of him because of the snow dust.
Sure. So
I try to keep 3 seconds on me. So I'm basically just watching his head and his shoulders. Like, if I saw him stand up, then I needed to stand up. I needed to calculate, you know, how far it was, you know. So at one point, like, something came by. I was like, what the hell was that? It was like a stump in the river.
Oh.
I was like, dude, if I would have been off like 6 inches, I would have smoked that. Like, it's over. Oh. Like the poop times, amount of times on that trail that I was like, that was close, man. That was a little too close. You know, it was a little crazy. But so we go that whole day. We were going from I believe it was McGrath to Poor Man. There's another one in there between. I can't remember the name, but there's these guys, and they passed us. Like, we were leading the whole day. Like Roger had us the whole day. We were cutting down trees. We were going through, like we were cruising on this trail at like 60 miles an hour. And then all of a sudden we get to where the snow was so deep and Roger's sled which just went Titanic vertical. It was like, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a long day. It's going to be a long day. So Roger leads us through this area all the way to Poor Man. You can't see. I took a windshield to the throat.
Ugh.
It bruised my throat. Like whenever I would swallow, it would hurt.
Yeah.
Like I was just couldn't see. I saw Roger. We got stuck a few times in the river bottom, not the river, in the creek bottoms. It's just brutal. You couldn't see. It was white out. It was blowing. Anyways, we lead the whole day. We get to this one little horseshoe corner, and these two guys on these skidoos come by, and they go past us. And in my head, I'm like, Roger, get him. Like I'm like a little kid. Like, get him, Dad. Don't let him pass us, Dad. And the second guy almost gets stuck, and Roger kind of creeps forward, and I'm like, get past him. I want him to go by him. Like, don't let him pass us. Like, dude, I will straight up punch him in the throat. Like, let's go. And so he lets him go, and then they get stuck going up this hill to Poor Man. And in my head, I'm like, oh, Dad's pissed, dude. We're going to get by him now. Like, Dad's mad. I'm like, do it, Roger. And I'm like right on Roger's tail end. I'm like, ream, like a little kid. I wanted to go by these guys so bad. We never do. We get to Poor Man, and the guys at Poor Man were, they were complaining about, whatever, about the trail not being perfect or whatever. But, dude, you're in Alaska.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's Alaska.
Yeah, no kidding.
So those two take off from Poor Man, and in my head, like, I'm on my sled. I'm ready to go. Like, Roger, let's go. These guys are beating us. And Roger is someone he was the president of the Iron Dog. He's the treasurer of the Iron Dog. So he's been around the Iron Dog a long time. He knows a lot. So Roger takes off and goes down the mountain, and for some reason I was lagging behind. I don't know why, but I was hauling balls on that 850, and I missed my corner.
Oh, no.
Missed my corner, went straight off, and I didn't get stuck, though. I did the old whip around and got back on the trail. But, dude, I hit the brake, and I was like, I'm not making this corner. Off into the willows I went, and I made it around. And eventually we catch two guys on the skidoos, and we pass them. And I'm like, yeah, dude, we win. We're winning. And then one of our guys gets stuck in the snow drifts. And, yeah, I'm like, man, come on. We got to go. We're supposed to be winning. And we eventually make it to McGrath, but not to McGrath, to Unigleet. And on the way to Unigleet, I mean, we've all driven a lot, right? And sometimes you're doing the head bob. You're like, I'm so tired. I was doing that on a snowmobile.
Jeez.
Like, Kaltenbacher, you're falling asleep on a snowmobile. How is this even legit?
Yeah.
Like, I was so tired. So we almost get to McGrath, and at one point, one of the guys had gotten stuck like a mile behind us, and one of the guys was like, hey, you got to go back. I was like, I got to go back?
Me?
And Dustin and Roger, they were gone, dude. They just kept going. So I went back for this guy, and the trail was probably like a 3-foot, it was probably a 3-foot bank. Like, you couldn't go off it, and trail sleds just don't go off the.
Yeah. Because what's the track length?
It's like a 130, what was that, 132, 136, 120, 129 with like a 1/4-inch paddle. So you go off and it's just like it's nothing. Yeah. It just really isn't. So at one point I had come head to head with Roger Brown, and I was like, hey, back up a little, because I thought, if he backs up a little, or I asked him to come forward, so I figured if I couldn't get around him, at least I could get back on the trail. Yeah. And I haven't posted that video yet because it doesn't look like anything. Actually, I think I did post it, but I was like, it doesn't look like anything, but it's kind of scary because these willows are, it's just deep. And these sled trails, these trail sleds, when you give them a pull, they just don't go. Like in mountain sled, you get 1, 2, 3, and you pull and it goes. Yeah. But not the trail sleds, they don't go. So anyways, I go back and get this guy, and we take off. We make it to Unigleet at like 2:33 in the morning.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it was 19 hours and 432 miles.
So this is day
This is day 1,
Oh, my God.
2. This is day 3.
Okay.
This is day 3.
Okay.
And so we make it to Unigleet. One of my high school buddies I didn't even know was there. I was like, oh, my goodness.
Chances.
Yeah.
I think I remember seeing that on your story.
Yeah, I was like, Wes Jones? Yeah. He was like, yeah. So we stay in this, it was the old post office, and they give us some smoked salmon, some candy bars, stuff to just eat. You're starving. And the smoked salmon from the villagers are,
Oh, man. Prime.
oh, had jalapenos in it.
Yum.
Dude, ridiculous.
Sounds
So
so
good.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. And at that point, man, you're willing to eat anything.
Oh.
You're so hungry. And
Yeah.
so, then that day, so then from there, from Unigleet, we went all the way to Koyuk, Koyuk the next day, and then from Koyuk we went to Kotzebue, and so then the next day wasn't too bad. It's pretty legit. You go across the ocean and stuff like that. That was kind of crazy. I was kind of hoping. And Dustin, he's so afraid of ice. Like, he doesn't like water. Like, he is crazy scared about water.
Okay.
And so I think I was messing with him, like, dude, I hope we don't fall in. Just messing with him. And we go across the ocean, and we meet up with a native guy, and he kind of takes us across, and we make it all the way to Koyuk, and then Koyuk from Koyuk to Kotzebue was kind of crazy. Cold. One of our guys, Mike Buck, out of Buckland, had wrecked, hit an ice heave at like 65 miles an hour. Yeah, hurt his back and his ribs, so we could only go so fast. And it was cold. It was so cold. Like, I had on every layer that you could possibly think of. We pulled up, and I think it was Buckland, and Roger and Dustin are taping their faces up. Like, well, if we're taping our faces up, this has got to be, it's pretty bad. So you tape up with the tape, and then you go across, and it felt like God was taking Kotzebue and pulling it from us. Like, you look at your 7S, and you're like, okay, we're 100 miles, and then like 4 hours later, you're like, it's still 100 miles.
Jeez.
Like, dude, hey, come on, man, it ain't funny anymore. Come on, Yeah. And poor Mike, he was pretty hurt, so we couldn't go too fast. So, at one point we stopped, and we're like doing air punches and dancing around.
Warming up, yeah.
Yeah, it was cold. Like, I had on every layer that you could think of. Anything you could think of, I had it on. You have to go across this lake that's 40 miles long, and it's like like in a skiff. Well, I call it a skiff, like a boat.
Yeah.
A boat's a skiff, where you're hopping drift. And, so on the whole way to Nome, basically, in my head, I was thinking, this is the Iron Dog? Like, I mean, it's kind of tough. Like, whatever. I mean, this is cool. So, put that on standby. So we get to Kotzebue, and, the Iron Dog treats us like gods, and put us in a beautiful hotel. And we go in, and Dustin's over sitting on his bed, and he doesn't look real happy. And I'm like, hey, D, I say, you all right? You good? And, he's talking about some stuff, and he's like, man, I just like to be in my own bed with my wife, nice and warm. And I'm like, but dude, think about in 5 years. 5 years, we're going to get to talk about this, the adventure we have, how cold and nasty it was. And he looks over, he's like, I don't share your enthusiasm. Like, I'm not where you're at. Like, I just like to be home, and
Sure.
I'm happy to be going to Nome and flying home. And, I think that's when I realized, there's something is a little different about me. Like, I'm so intrigued on this. We could die out here. This is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So we meet up with Chris Olds and a couple other people, and we follow them all the way to Nome through an ice storm, and we're good.
Yep. Yeah, you're good.
We get all the way to Nome, and the day we come into Nome, they say that there's a storm coming in, and I'm thinking, okay, that was on a Tuesday. We should leave on Wednesday. And the storm was pretty bad that was coming in. It was complete whiteout. And so so Roger decides, Roger and the Iron Dog decide, hey, it's not good for us to leave on a Wednesday. Yeah, they were talking about yellow flagging the racers just because it was so bad. And so Thursday morning, so Wednesday it was pretty bad. They have the banquet whatsoever. And on Thursday we leave at 4 a.m. And then that night before we left 4 a.m. We're getting up at 4 a.m. We're out, and they and Nome, they had this group in there that were giving IVs.
Oh,
it was like for $100. I was like, you know what, I'll do an IV. Why not? It was the best decision.
I was gonna say that's probably a good decision right there.
Yeah, everybody, a lot of the racers were doing it, getting IVs, getting hydrated.
Yeah.
You don't realize how fast, like at each checkpoint, I'm skipping all over the place, but at each checkpoint, Roger's like, we're in a hurry. And Chris Olds and Mike Morgan in their rookie class were talking about drink as much water as you can. So at every checkpoint, man, you could take like one of those waters and you could squeeze it in your mouth and it was gone.
Yeah.
And then for food wise, I had these gummy bears, and I would shove my mouth full of gummy bears as much as I could, just so because you weren't eating a whole lot because you're on the move, and we had as a racer you're moving anyways.
Yeah.
But as an ambassador, we were trying to make our checkpoint so we could make sure that we were there at a certain time. We had to be in Kotzebue at a certain time, and Nome at a certain time. So we were doing all this stuff, and so anyways, we get to Nome and we're leaving that Thursday. Well, the night before we left, this kid Michael had come up to us. He's like, "Hey, listen, I heard you guys are leaving at 4 a.m. And he lived in White Mountain, and he was like, can I ride with you guys to get home? And so Roger and the two Polaris guys, everybody's like, yeah, that's cool. And he's like, well, I'm having some problems with my lights. And one of the Polaris engineers was like, hey, let me help you. So he goes and helps him that night, and we get his sled work and everything's good. So we leave from Nome the next morning. He shows up. His name's Michael, and we take off to White Mountain. We get to White Mountain, and we say our goodbyes. We talk to the gas guy, and this is where Alaska said, "Oh yeah, you think it's easy to go to Nome?"
Yeah.
Boom, dude.
Really?
Alaska slapped down. Yeah. So that storm came in, and the winds were bad. It warmed up a little bit. It had rained here and there. It melted a lot of the snow. So after White Mountain, we had talked to. This is where it gets real good. We had talked to the guy at White Mountain. And he's like, yeah, Gullivan Bay is fine. And so you got to go from White Mountain. You go across the bay to Gullivan, which is a little town, and you go across this little inlet. So basically, it's like a U, and then the ocean's out here, and it's just a little inlet, and you go across to White Mountain or to Gullivan. And so Chris Olds, which him and Mike Morgan had scratched because Mike Morgan had busted up his sled. So Chris Olds had ridden to Nome with a couple other guys just to get them to Nome to do their halfway because they were part of the expedition group. And so we had talked Chris Olds into taking one of the 4-strokes and riding it back Dustin's sled because Dustin lives from Nome.
Oh, yeah.
And we were like, hey, come back with us. He's like, yeah, sure, that'd be a good time. So we talk him into it. So Chris Olds has become kind of our leader, and Roger had dropped back. Roger had always been our leader, but he had trying to drop back, and I was always following Chris Olds because he's a 4-time champ, so I wanted to learn something. So anyways, after we left White Mountain, I'm following Chris Olds, and we started to head across Gullivan Bay. So it's Chris Olds, myself, the two Polaris engineers, and then Roger Brown was in the back. We're cruising along at I want to say it was 65 miles an hour. I was sitting on my sled because it was 6:18 in the morning. So it was pitch black. You can't see anything. I'm just following Chris, and it's all white. Next thing I know, the ground goes black. So black means water. So I see water, and I see Chris Olds. I'm right behind Chris Olds, and I stand up. I'm like, what? We're going to use correct language. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah.
And I'm going, and I was wearing the Climb Edge goggles, and it had chrome on my edges.
Yep.
And I had my head turned just a little bit, and I could see headlights dropping behind me. I see, one headlight, another headlight, and I'm watching Chris Olds. Well, he's slowing down. Well, so I kind of get to the side of him because the spray's getting up, and your first instinct is to let out the throttle too. And I'm watching him, I'm looking at him going, what do you let's go, bro. And I just see a sled go vertical, and it dumps off. So I pinch on the throttle. Well, being from Alaska, I know it's just, I take that back. I think it's overflow because it's water being pushed in from the bay that's up on that. But in my head, I'm like, oh my God, my friends are dying back here.
Yeah.
Do I turn to my left because I know that shore is to my left, but it's probably 25 miles off. We're 25 miles off. You're going across this bay. Bro. Yeah. So I'm going, and I'm punching the throttle, and it's lifting the skis, and I'm coming down, then out of my corner of my eye, I see a white spot, and then another big white spot. So I pull over there, and I stop, and it's two hard packed snow berms that's on there. So I stop on them. I rip off my helmet. I rip off my face mask. I grab my oxbow light. I'm running back on these two patches. I'm yelling, Roger, Chris, Roger, Chris. And I'm thinking, I'm going to hear grown men crying, we're dying out here. What do? I don't have a buoy. They've got the rope.
Oh, my God.
So I'm freaking
I'm starting
out.
To sweat right
now.
now.
And I had grabbed my Garmin. And I was texting Dustin. Hey, I think we need help. And I was like, do I hit the SOS? Do I panic? Do I hit the SOS? What the heck do I do?
Hey guys, welcome to Sled Talk. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I would like to take a second of your time and introduce this season's title sponsor is Bikeman Performance. So they've decided to jump on board and help push the podcast. And if you're unaware, Bikeman is the elite level when it comes to aftermarket performance parts on your sled. So be sure to check out their site, link in the description. And without further ado, let's jump into the show.
And lo and behold, here comes Chris Olds walking out of the water in his bunny boots, just splashing away, just walking towards me. And, like, I was almost in tears. Like, I was so happy to see him. I'm like, oh, buddy, you know.
Yeah.
And he's like, we're good. And so he walks up. He's like, listen, you're dry. We're soaked. You stay here. I was like, okay, so and do what? Like, what am I supposed to do? And he's like, I'll go help Roger. So he starts. I've got video of it. He walks back out in the water like he's Jesus. Just walks back out on the water. And, and the way he goes, well, my oxbow light from the cold, you know, it had been in my bag. It went cold. So I ran back to my sled, and I grabbed my other oxbow, and I came back, and I'm like, listen, and I don't see anybody. You know, your head starts playing tricks on you.
Oh, yeah.
Like, did I just hear the ice crack? I thought I heard the ice crack. And then at one point, I'm looking down at the water coming across the snow, and it's moving. I mean, it's moving. It's moving pretty quick. I'm like, okay, is that the tide coming in? Is that the ice sinking? You know, I don't know, dude. This is my first time. And I don't see anybody. I'm yelling Chris. I'm yelling Roger. No one's answering me. I grab my oxbow radio. I'm like on 911. Hey, do you guys hear me? Is anybody copying? Nothing. So at one point, I was like, dude, I'm out of here. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm going back across. So I go and I put all my stuff back on. I turn the sled around as I punch it to go across the ice, across. I start going. It just starts. It's about a mile. We figured it was a little over a mile. I'm just water skipping. In my video, you can see, like, slush and ice chunks. And as I'm going, like, after about 200 feet, you see these two headlamps turn. It's Roger and Chris Olds looking at me, and I'm all, meow. I'm like, later, dudes. Peace out. So I make it all the way back to their side, and then two Polaris engineers had their bags. They're soaked, and they're walking towards land, and they're like, hey, we need to get to wood to start a fire. I'm like, okay, well, I can't leave the other two guys.
Yeah.
I gotta wait here. And so then, that all part comes kind of black for some reason. But, we're all sitting there, and then pretty soon Roger and Dustin come walking out of the water, and then that's when Ackelstead and I forget the leaders showed up, and it was 7:18, and Roger Brown's like, hey, we need help. And they're like, okay, well, we're off the clock at 7:18. We're like, okay, we're all your witness to tell the race marshal, and they got to help us. Yeah. So they take us back to that guy's Michael's house that we helped. Mm-hmm. We take it back to his house, and this guy and his wife, I think her name was Melody, but they brought us in, took us into their house. We were there for 6-7 hours, turned their bathroom into a drying area. Mm-hmm. And we just dried out all, because, everybody was soaked other than me. I was the only lucky one, but everybody's soaked, completely soaked. So those people got, other villagers, this guy named Henry. He's friends with me on Facebook. He's one of my friends now. He's like, dude, we're friends. We're brothers forever. Henry, and then a brother-in-law, and then a bunch of people gave chest waders and hip waders so we can go out there and get these sleds that were a mile off. They were a mile off, and these villagers came out and helped us like nothing all day.
That's wild.
All day. They got, 300 feet of rope. They got toboggan sleds to put the sleds on them and pull them out of the water. They helped us. We 5 of us put straps on our back, and we pulled these sleds to the water in the slush.
Good Lord.
And it was about thigh-high deep water. And, of course, I was the only one with hip waders, and I fell.
Oh, no.
I tripped. There was, like, some ice chunks.
Spilled them.
Yeah.
Spilled
I
them.
tripped and fell. So I fell in the water up to my arms, and then it filled my hip waders. Well, I didn't want to leave because, everybody needed to be there to help. Yeah. So I told Roger, I was like, hey, man, I fell in the water. And the native Henry is like, hey, buddy, you better go back to town. And I was like, no, I'm native tough. He's like, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. So we were on the last sled. We were pulling it so our sleds were over here, and we were pulling the sleds to where I had parked my sled. We were pulling them there, and I was like, let's just get this last sled up here, and then I'll go back to the village and warm up. So as we were pulling the last sled, I was like, hey, we got to go. Like, I could feel my body core temperature dropping. I was cold. Like, my right foot was so damn cold. We get it up there. I'm like, hey, Roger, I'm out, man. I can't feel my foot. I'm done. And he's like, you're out of here. And I told Henry, I was like, hey, Henry, I'm not native tough. I'm white man stupid. Like, I'm out. So as I'm walking across and back the bay, I'm like throwing punches because I'm so cold. Yeah. I am freezing. And I get on my sled and I go all the way back to village, which is like 10 or 15 miles. I get back there, and the whole time I'm thinking, man, I hope that wife is home because my foot was so cold. Like, I'm shivering. My boot's full of water. I get back there. The wife's not there. And I'm trying to get this boot off for, like, it felt like 30 minutes. I'm sure it was only 5 minutes, but I couldn't get it off because my foot was so cold. And, I finally get the boot off. I'm struggling to get the boot off. Like I kick a little bit. I'm sitting there for a little bit, and I kick it for a little bit, and I sit there for a little bit, and I finally get it off, and water's dumping on their floor. I feel horrible, and then they have a towel in the middle of their living room, and I just grab the towel, and I'm like in my Teton woolly.
Yeah.
That's it. It's a real thin, and I'm standing there, and she comes to the door, and I'm just like, hi, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
She's like, no problem. She gets me a blanket. She helps me. She's like, oh, that foot's going to hurt. And I was like, if I start crying, it's just a cold. She's like, I understand.
Yeah.
It hurts so bad. So finally I warm up, and she gives me some other, generic, snow pants because all my stuff is soaked.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, soaked to the bone, other than my jacket. And and I go back out, and by the time I get back out to where Roger and Chris and the other two Polaris engineers are in Henry, it's snow raining. So the pants that she gave me are already soaked. So now they're dripping in my boots. I can't walk out in the snow. Poor Roger, with his knee surgery and his meniscus tear, like he can't even walk. Mm-hmm. Like he's done. And this whole time going on, I'm like, we're scratching. We're done. It's over. And I'm too afraid to say anything. But Chris Olds had kept a positive attitude. He's kind of positive and kind of jumping around. And I was like, I'm not going to say anything because I didn't want to scratch. That was my number one thing is I didn't want to scratch.
Yeah.
And so we finally get 2 of the sleds started. They get them skipped across. 2 of the sleds wouldn't start. And Chris is like, okay, well, let's get them back to the shop. These villagers, they're volunteer firefighters, and they give us their shop. It's heated. We get them back there. We get oil for the 4 strokes. We change the oil. They all start up. And Chris is like, cool. Well, let's get some sleep. And we're off in the morning. I'm like, all right, man, here we go. And the family, Michael and his wife, God bless them. They made us moose fried rice, chicken fried rice. They went to the store, bought us a bunch of food. I mean, these people.
That's dope.
Like the villagers of the whole race were just cool as heck.
Yeah.
Anything you needed, they were so happy. They make the Iron Dog. That's what's really intriguing me to go back is the villagers. So, anyways, the next morning we take off and away we go. We make it back to, and as we got farther and farther. The way that we came across from Unalakleet to Nome to Kotzebue, we couldn't go back because from the storms, the ocean water had pushed up on the ice, so all the rivers had opened, all the edge of the ocean had opened. So, talking to Chris Olds, if you were on the Iron Dog and you were on a 2-stroke, you just pin it and skip it across it. But with the sleds we were on, the 4 strokes, he was a little worried about it, and so we had to go all the way around. So it was bare tundra for like 4 hours, and like that whole time, I'm like, this is just so cool. It's so intriguing to me. Like I just wanted to keep going. Like it was never miserable at times, and eventually, he kept skipping across water. Kept skipping across water, and eventually, I had posted it, but Chris had found a spot where you could skip from the frozen dirt across the open seawater to the ice to get across to go to Unalakleet. And that was kind of spooky. And at one point, I think Chris Olds went across it and Roger's all, yeah. And I'm in my head, I'm like, well, why would you, yeah? Like, were you planning on him, like, sinking and dying? Like
were you worried about this at all?
You were worried about this? Maybe this wasn't a good idea, And so we make it across. We make it all the way to Unalakleet. And we almost get to Unalakleet. And we couldn't get across this river. And so Roger had called some of the natives from the town, and dude, they came out. You could see them for miles. You could see them going this way and going that way, and then coming at us and going back. And pretty soon you see them jumping off the river banks across the water into the middle of the ice, and then across and through stumps and through slush. And they come over and they're like, "Hey, what's up?" Like, what's up? They're like, okay, well, if you go across here, when you hit that stump, you got to take a left and then skip across that slush, and you're going to hit solid ice. And then from that ice, you're going to go across. You're going to see that bank. You're going to go up that bank, and so forth. And you're just following these guys, and they're on these skidoos with the wide skis. And dude, the natives are like a pack of wolves, dude. They just know it. It's cool about the natives is that they just know. They know every little tree, and so. We make it across. We get to Unalakleet. We make it there, late. I don't remember. Like, at one point when on our way to Unalakleet, Chris was like, hey, we shouldn't have any more water. We're good to go. So, once again, I'm sitting down. We're doing like 70 miles an hour, and all of a sudden it goes from white to black. And I'm like, what? And I see it looks like like a boat behind him. I see the wake and everything. We come across, and I'm like, what the hell was that? And he's like, yeah, I don't remember that. And I'm like, no more. Like, I'm done. Like, enough water.
Yeah.
You know, geez. So, yeah, we get to Unacleat, and we go into this lady's house, and she makes us some stew, and she opens up her house to us, and everybody's sleeping everywhere. And next day we wake up, and away we go, and the villagers take us across, and we start going, and it's blizzard where you can't see here to the wall. And we're trying to make it all the way back to McGrath, and just forever, like 150 miles of either 1 foot whoops to 4 feet whoops, and just nasty.
Beating the crap out of yourself.
Oh, brutal. But like I said, at all points, like there was this one creek bottom that we came through on the way through. It was just snow. On the way back, it was complete water. So Chris had us cutting down tree branches to lay across so we could get across.
I remember watching this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Chris goes across it, and he gets a little zesty, and I'm like, okay, we need to go a little easy. So I think I went next. I just went kind of nice and easy, and then you had one of the Polaris engineers that came across, and he hit a stump. Dude, I thought he broke his wrist. Oh. I'm like, we just smoked an A-arm. Roger came across and got a little stuck, but, we eventually made it across, and we make it to McGrath, and, I'd kept, like, pushing. I wanted to make the finish. The finish was the essence of the race.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Like, coming through the climb arch, I had buddies, I had my wife, my kids. Everybody was waiting at the finish line for us. I'm like, we got to make this. And, as we kept going on, we were the last people. Like, the racers are already gone, so it was pretty lonely out there. All the checkpoints were dead.
Sure.
They left us some fuel. Once we got to McGrath, skipping through some of it, we get to McGrath, and Roger's like, hey, we'll sleep for 2 hours and we'll go. I'm like, okay, so that was like 20 hours. It took us I think it was 20 hours to make it from Unacleat to McGrath. It might have been 21. I can't remember exactly. But so I had, we went to bed, and I was the first one up. I was up, wide awake, got dressed. Everybody else is still sleeping. I'm thinking, we got to go. And in my head, I'm trying to make out the math. I'm like, we're not making the finish. There's no way. And I had gotten dressed, and I had fallen asleep on the couch waiting for everybody. And finally, one of the guys that woke me up, Smasher, hey, there's breakfast. And that was like, I think it was 10 a.m. And when I had figured out, man, I cried. It broke my heart. Like finishing the race at the amount of time, which, we lost some sleds in Gullivan Bay. We lost 4 sleds there. That killed the whole day. We also got held up in Elam for a medevac issue. The Iron Dog held us there for 6 hours. So, that was part of the problem. But to not make the finish was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And
sure.
So then the next day, we wake up. So it was 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. We finally leave, and damn, the whole race I never broke anything. I finally broke a torsion spring. And then one of the Polaris engineers, I think, broke a torsion spring. So Chris Olds had to go all the way back to McGrath, which was an hour ride. He went back, got his torsion springs, came all the way back. We fixed those, and then we took off. And then right before the finish line, one of the other Polaris engineers broke a torsion spring. Oh. So he was hating it. As you got closer and closer, it seemed like forever and forever and forever. Yeah. And it was cold. It was, I think as we got closer, Chris Olds on a 4-stroke, he was hauling balls, and I was trying to keep up with him, because I was so intrigued by him. But my suspension on the sled that Roger had given me wasn't quite set up for what we were doing. It was bottoming out so hard, like my left knee was a little swollen. I skipped over a bunch of stuff. Chris almost drowned in a river on the way by Roan. Didn't see it at the last second. Luckily, he hit the brakes, tipped over. He didn't fall in the river. There's just so much. There's just so much that I had to skip over. But anyways, we finally get to the finish, and like you're done. You're just
tuckered.
Just tuckered. I think I figured I was at 42 hours with 3 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
So you're pretty, a zombie. And so you get there, and I had so many friends and family and people. This guy, David Wagner, that just blew my mind. He had no reason to be there, but he just came to support us. He was a racer also, and had offered so much. And
I feel like I've seen him on
Facebook.
Oh,
you have.
I'm friends with him on Facebook.
Yeah. Great guy. I mean, he was really cool, and poor Roger was beat. And so that's where we finished at Big Lake, and all these people were hugging us. And so it was kind of like done. Mm-hmm. And so my stepmother had come up to me, and she was like, hey, I saved a room for you and your wife to stay an extra night, because that was Sunday. I was supposed to be home on Monday to work. And I was like, no, I'm going home. This is it. We're done. And she's like, okay, whatever. And then my wife had come up to me and said, hey, you need to stay another night. We need to sleep. I'm like, no, we're going home. Like, so it was 6:33. We had to be at the airport by 10 o'clock to get on our flight at noon. And I was like, I'm fine. I'm good. So we put everything up. I said my goodbyes to Roger and, everybody, and away we went. Within 40 minutes of being on that car ride, dude, my hands swelled up. My legs, I couldn't feel my legs. Your adrenaline just drops because you're safe. I was a zombie. We get up into the room, and my wife's like a mom, Chris, we got to go, get going. I couldn't function. Like, I was so tired. I was like, this is stupid, dumb. I'm trying to pack my bag. I'm almost in tears because I'm so tired. We get in the cab, and we go to the airport, and my boys are trying to help me, and I'm like a walking zombie. And yeah, I didn't know.
Wild.
I just wanted to get home.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get home. My dad's there, one of my best friends from high school. He'd come up to watch me finish. So yeah, we get on the plane, we fly home, and my legs, like, I couldn't even stand up on the plane to get up off the plane. It hurt so bad. My wife was worried they were going to kick us off the plane because they thought I was drunk because I was weaving and wobbling so bad. So yeah, that's the Iron Dog experience. But
my gosh. And you signed up to go again next year.
Yeah.
But I think the ambassador class is different because when you're racing, you're making it from Big Lake to, I think Chris and Tyson Johnson had told me, from Big Lake to McGrath, you're doing it in like the pros, the fast guys are doing it in like 8 hours. So maybe I'm doing it in 10 hours rather than 16, 17 hours. So you have more time to sleep. I'm not saying it's easier, but as long as you don't crash or do something like that. But it's just intriguing.
Sure.
If you can withstand the pounding of the Iron Dog and it's just all strategy.
You feel like it's something about like pitting yourself against nature, like Mother Nature, that just like drives you as a person
100%.
to do that? Yeah.
Because between like Buckland and Kotzebue, there's nothing out there. So if something were to happen, man, that's you. Yeah, if there's like a ground storm or something, they're not getting a helicopter. I don't know how they could get a helicopter, but the Iron Dog's not going to. Obviously, they've got this idea, worked in, and they'll figure it out. But there's nothing out there. You got little shrubberies in between the creeks, but still, you're talking. There's nothing, and the snow of Alaska is just so sugary. There's just nothing out there. Like the wind is, and there's no bottom. Like when you're on the trail, it's nice and hard. You get off the trail and it's 4 feet up to your waist, and there's nothing. Like sometimes you have a crust where you can walk on. No.
That's wild, dude.
Yeah, that's.
And the racers are just, dude, they're just going balls to the wall. When I so 2-3 weeks or a month after the Iron Dog, I went back up to ride with Chris Olds and Tyson Johnson, and to do it at the race pace. Like Chris let me borrow one of his sleds, suspension for the race, and to follow those guys, you're doing 104 down the river, and it's incredible. Like you're moving.
Yeah.
At some point you're like, dude, if we wipe out, I hope I die because this is going to hurt a lot.
Without a doubt.
A lot. A whole lot. And those guys have run that river so much that they know exactly where every little heave is and everything. They know where the moguls are. But a few times I did some tank slapping. Like I was like, oh, that was close. That was a little too close. Let's don't do that again.
Yeah. So going back next year, are you ambassador or are you racing?
I'm racing.
Oh, man.
I want in. I want in one time. If the goal is to complete, anything above Elite 8 is a success. Okay. The first 5 or 6 teams, dude, these guys, they've got it dialed. They're either locals and they run it a lot. For me and my partner that we're going to do it with, it's just too, especially as a rookie. I mean, you think that you can go up there and run this.
It's different.
No, it's just different. I mean, so Chris told me, if you have poops moment, like more than 3 times, you're going too fast. Like when I was following him and Tyson through these trees and we were moving pretty quick, which, we all know GoPro doesn't show it. Like it's going, you're going 40 miles an hour. Like you miss just a turn or something, it's over. Yeah. And he was like, this is how fast we'd go through the trees at all times. And that's moving, especially when you're doing 2,500 miles. You might look at it through the GoPros at 1 minute. You're like, oh, that's not that hard. But 2,500 miles, when you're coming back and you're at 1,800 miles and you're going through those whoops at 50 miles an hour.
Fatigued, yeah, all of it.
Just fatigue,
compounding
your sled's a little different. The snow's a little different. Like on the way up, on the way up, I posted a mogul where I was hauling balls through this mogul section, and it was powder. On the way back, it was solid ice where the race sleds, where they would hit They were on the throttle. So there was like 3-foot deep trenches. So your running boards would hit that ice every single time. So if you're in the back, you're just getting the crap end of everything. Mm-hmm. So that's something to think about. And the funny thing was, so when I was up there with Tyson and Chris, at one point my sled detonated. Okay, so these guys were only doing 93 miles an hour. So now I've detonated. So I've slowed down. I've had to shut my sled off. I had to start it back up. For me to catch up to them, that means I've got to do 120 to catch up to them. So I immediately took off. Well, I tank slapped really bad. Like I almost ate it through these moguls that were like 4 feet deep to the trees. And I finally figured, you know what? I'm not going to catch them. Like that's over. That part is over. You're not making up that unless they screw up in front of you. So for the Iron Dog, for the racers, like when you put on your stuff in the mountain gear, when you put on your knee pads or your elbow pads or whatever, you're like, okay, they're on. But in the Iron Dog, everything has to be precise, because if it's not, then that's 2 minutes that you have to spend undoing your pants, fixing your knee pad, fixing your boot, fixing your goggles. That's 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. 2 minutes is,
That's a long time.
Yep. Or your goggles, like my damn beard was tickling my ear one time, and I couldn't get it because of your face mask, and I couldn't get my finger there, so I'm punching my helmet. Yeah. Roger's like, gone. Yeah. So I'm like, well, I just have to tell myself it's not itching anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Or I had a piece of tape that was every time I'd breathe, it sucked in my nose, and I'd...
It's the little things.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So in the Iron Dog, everything has to be 100% at all times.
Oh, that's so wild, man. Holy
So
smokes.
from that experience and then leading up to this next year, this next race, is there anything that you are going to change in the realm of preparation? So preparation for prepping gear, prepping your mindset, prepping your physical fitness. Like what, from learning that experience and everything that you did, what's going to change in preparation for you leading up to next season?
Forearms.
Okay.
I'll be working out my forearms a lot more, for sure. Riding down, you say I stand up a lot when I ride, but at 90 miles an hour, 80 miles an hour, you don't always stand up. Earplugs, I'll be wearing earplugs. I didn't wear earplugs, but forearms, middle of your back, in between your shoulder blades, that I'll be working those out. As far as gear, so I had been talking to Mike Morgan, and he was saying that he wore one pair of gloves the whole trip. Well, as mountain riders, no, dude, I bring 2, 3, 4 pairs of gloves because they get wet. Yeah. But as an Iron Dogger, you're wearing the gauntlets, and you're not getting off your sled. You're not pulling on a ski a lot. Like your hands are solid inside there, so you're not getting wet. So like the guide gloves, I wore the guide gloves 1,800 miles. The only reason I changed was because my ding dong rear end fell in the ocean and they got soaked and they never dried out. That, and then I was packing a lot of gear. Like I packed, 3 sets of wool gear, 3 sets of base layer. Like you don't need that. Like you need 2 sets, and then 1 extra gear that you have to carry as an athlete. You have to carry in a plastic bag. But other than that, I won't, their bags are very small. Like they carry a sleeping bag, their stove, their matches, their headlight, some extra gear, some extra gloves, some springs, some A-arms. That's about it. But other than that, you're pretty lightweight, because when you stop, you get to pull off your bag. So when you pull up to a checkpoint, you pull up and you pull off your bag, you're like, I'm done. And they stop the clock right there. Now, if you go back to, like, let's say I forget my cell phone, I think if I understood, it was a half-hour increment. So they add a half hour. So how bad do you want your cell phone? You forget your cell phone cord. You forget your socks. You're on the clock.
Everything's in that bag.
So, you clip your bag off. You're like, done. And that's when it ends. You can't touch your sled again. You can't go back to your sled until you start in the morning.
Yeah.
My other question is like, why not go from McGrath all the way to Nuclear? Like, just blow and go.
Oh, yeah.
But they were saying, you get so tired, and they're right. You get so worked and so tired. Now your time speeds down. Maybe you're the fastest in McGrath, but from McGrath to Uniclete, maybe you're so tired that you slow down and you're breaking trail.
Yeah.
So there's a lot. I mean, like these racers are no joke. Like you're not going from lower 48s and going up to Alaska and going, yeah, I'm going to top 5 this. And I think they said that no rookie has ever top 5 this ever in the history of Iron Dog.
Wow.
You got what would you say like the average day was, like as far as time wise?
I don't know what the pros were. I don't. But for us, I don't know that either.
I feel like my head would like not even my head, just like my neck in general. I would just be like smoked, like with the helmet and just up and down, like just hitting the whoops and stuff.
But
like
the
that.
difference
I feel like
is that you know that when you ride here, you're like, okay, we've been in 6 hours. My next door, hey Tyler, let's go home. When you're up there, you can't say, man, Tyler,
you're dealing
I'm
with
done.
it.
Like,
Yeah.
let's pound sand, dude. We're done. Like you have to
no
go to
option.
fly. Like if you were to wreck your sled in Uniclete, now you got to fly your sled out. Now you got to fly you out. So that's that's $3,000. You got to get everything out.
Yeah.
Like so that's not an option. Like
Yeah.
it's just no joke. The more and more I think about it, the more and more intriguing it is. Like I want to do it so bad, And so Roger had given me an Iron Dog jacket before we did the race, and in my head I'm like, well, that's not my jacket. I can't have that till we do the 2,500 miles. You can't say you did the Iron Dog and not finish it and wear the jacket.
Yeah.
That's all a false advertisement. And it's just been a dream for so long that I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
Like I'm ready to sell my mountain sleds and do this. A lot of my sponsors, I've already talked to them. They're like, we're in. Like, let's do this.
Wow.
So
That's pretty wicked.
Hell yeah.
as long as we finish it, man. Even if we're last, like there was two women that did it, and I have the most respect for them. They did it in. I was thinking one of the girls got stuck. Well, another group of guys didn't help them, so the other girl was a mile ahead of her. Well, she couldn't turn around because there's nowhere to turn. There's nowhere to turn around.
Yeah.
Like the trees are so thick you can't turn around. So she had to walk a mile back to help her partner to get unstuck, and then they could go forward. Now that to me,
That's wild.
that's
And
an iron
dedication.
dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah. Because if you're stuck, I'm like, Tyler, you're on your own, buddy. I'll be waiting. I'm gonna have a fire, start digging, cutting. If you don't make it, I'm just gonna shoot you. So
I guess we won't
Put you down. Yeah. No.
Oh my gosh.
yeah. So
That's intense, man. That's an experience.
The mental strength on that is just
Oh yeah.
insane. Do you do anything?
University.
You think you're going to do anything to mentally prepare yourself for that?
no, because I am so mentally, I don't know, cocky or arrogant, but I'm so mentally focused that
You're sold on it.
I'm
Yeah.
sold. Like to see, I've talked to Ackelstead and Tyler Johnson, Chris Olds, Mike Morgan. These guys have been nothing but great to me, and to be where they're at, like to do this, it's just intriguing. I don't know if it's as intriguing to everybody else, but to do 2,500 miles across the state of Alaska through these villages and to come home and say, I did that.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is like, that's just nasty. It's not 30 miles of some backcountry where, some of the backcountry we do is pretty nasty, but 2,500 miles.
That's some serious bragging rights.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's just through 50 below and so they were saying that this year was really good because through the Farewell Burn, it's normally dirt. So you get to go maybe 15 minutes and you got to stop and let your sled down 15 minutes, let your sled cool down because it's solid dirt. But this year it was snowed, but just some of the stuff like I can see it in my head, and to explain it just doesn't make sense, but to actually think about, 2,500 miles on a sled, which was, the normal guys do, I think they do it in 7 days, 8 days.
Yeah.
I mean, you're balls to the wall.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very respectable. That's crazy.
I'm in love.
Yeah. That's like going from that's like going from here to Miami, Florida, on a sled. That's 2,554 miles.
Yeah. And I want to say that I think we did 2,800 with the back and forth from White Mountain to Gullivan Bay. Like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
That's insane. That doesn't tell you how big Alaska is in general, but that's a monstrous race.
It's just, I don't know. It's dumb.
It is kind of
dumb.
dumb, but wicked. I mean,
What's the Iditarod in comparison?
I think it's half. I think they go up and back, just up. I think they just go up. I believe that's right. And I should know that because both my parents were dog mushers.
Okay.
But I think it's just up, stud.
That's super respectable too.
Oh, so on the way back, we got to take a little shortcut actually from Roan to Puntilla, and we took the Iron Dog Trail, which is, you're not supposed to, but they let us do it, and it cut like 60 miles off. And is it 1,000?
yeah, it's just shy. It's like it's 900 right in between 900 and 1,000, and they start out of Anchorage and finish in Nome.
Yeah. And for dog mushers, that's just and to go through this. So to go through this on the way through, like I'm looking up and you get to go through, and so there's like these little trails, these wooden bridges that your sled skis are just on the edge. Like you fall off and bloop, you're in the drink. But super cool. We got to go through this pass, and I wish we'd have got to do it in the day. We got to do it in the night, but pretty cool.
That's wild.
Like I'm ready to start tomorrow. Like let's go. We're out. See you, boys.
Hell yeah.
9:38.
9:38, and to do it on a dog sled at whatever 15 miles an hour, and standing on there at 20-30 blow with the crosswind, and you're just staring at your dog's rear end.
Yeah.
No, man.
I've ridden in one of those sleds before.
And that's
It was
not
a
only
pretty
like
cool experience.
That's not just you and the machine, right? That's you and the dogs.
Yeah.
Like that's a whole.
You have to.
It's a whole team of. Yeah, that's wild too.
Well, I was thinking from I think it was Koyak, man. So bad with me. I think Koyak to Unacleat. We went through blowing sleet, rain, and then it was like a blizzard. I couldn't see here. I could barely see the back of Chris Old's head. I was just following the GPS, like the coordinates, because it was blowing so bad. Mm-hmm. And, as a mountain rider, you guys are in mountains. When you're hauling butt across something, you're worried about falling off a cliff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, he's just going. I'm like, dude, we're going to die. Like, this is it. Like, they're going to find me. Yeah. Local Sparks resident Chris Kallenbacher dies an iron dog falling off of a cliff. But, in Alaska, it's pretty flat. You're at zero. Like, I'm looking at my GPS, and it's like -2 feet. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. What? Yep. That's weird.
And the sleds run, like, ridiculous.
Oh, I bet.
Oh, I'm sure.
I think I had the sled up to 106 miles an hour. And I was trying to find it on my GoPro, but I can't find it. But dude, stuff is just whizzing by, and you're watching it, and you're like, once again, man, I hit something, it's over. Oh, yeah. Like, please let me die, please. I don't want to die, but let me just end it right here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's intense.
Yeah, that's Iron Dog experience. So
crazy enough to go again.
I'm excited. So when you guys come up there this February,
there you
come
go.
up and do it. So what you guys need to do is come up and do a SledSend podcast, like for the beginning, and get some of the champions in there and hey, give me 15 minutes. Like, what's your take? What are you guys gonna do this year? Smasher's out here to beat you. You think that's gonna happen?
Yeah. What are you gonna do about Smasher? Huh?
Look out!
What's the sabotage plan?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just kidding.
All you got to do is play it safe and smart.
Yeah, man, what an experience! Thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah,
it shines a lot of light on it.
Yeah.
How are we on? Okay.
No kidding.
Yeah, like that, dude.
Yeah.
I'm a big deal.
So, yeah. So I think we'll cut off right there. And the next episode we'll get into some other stuff. So putting you on the spot again. Another sled talk question.
Okay.
Maybe
you guys should have to ask it.
You got it.
don't do that. I hate it when you do that. It throws it back to me.
He's
So
already asked one.
How many people could think they could do the Iron Dog?
That's a good one too.
that's a really great question.
What do you think? How many people think they've got? I mean, I'm not trying to brag it up, but how many people think they've got what it takes to do the Iron Dog? 2,500 miles across the state of Alaska, not knowing what's around the neck, and you're going from dirt to tundra to open water, and you're not talking open water like 20 feet. You're talking a mile. Like I've talked to some of these guys, they've water skipped, not knowing where the end is, and just like because basically, so like if we're gonna move this microphone because it's out of my way. So let's say that this is the bay here, and you take a straight shot. This is like Gullivan Bay. So this is Gullivan over here. This is White Mountain here. So if you were to cut across, that saves you 2 hours.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. And this is all water. Now, if you go across this way, you've just lost the race. You literally lost the race because this guy's going to do it in 30 minutes. You're going to spend 2 hours going across. So you're saying I'm going to die winning it, or I'm going to live and lose it. That's what you're saying. No. That's what it comes down to. Because I was asking a couple of the pros, like, hey, if that was water, they're like, dude, we pin it. I was like, what if
there's no choice?
Yeah,
like, you don't think about it, you just do it.
Like seriously, like I'd probably stop back here and be like, hey, let's wait and we'll see if like Chris Olds and Mike Morgan, they go across. Oh, they went across? Okay, we'll follow them. Oh, they sunk? Okay, keep going. But no, seriously, I mean, this is win the race and die, possibly, or lose the race and finish. That's what it comes down to.
Oh my gosh. gosh.
And that's the
Serious
spot.
decisions.
That's the spot where I think
It's a mental. It's like that's
knowing
so mental.
me and the way my body is, I'm going to pick the stupid line and go, dude, I think we can make it.
Yeah.
Because that's just me, where I wish I wasn't like that because, you know, I don't want to die. Not yet. Dude, I'm on SledSend.
Hell yeah.
I got another podcast to do.
Oh man,
One or
it.
two more. Oh boy. Yeah, that was a good question. Shade, do you got one?
no.
Come on.
That's why
So-
I already I
So-
off to you.
Oh man.
Oh,
I think I have one for the
Shane
next.
to Iron Dog.
I have the next one. Oh well, I don't know about that.
he's going deep here. Like he's thinking.
I have one for the next podcast for sure.
You're like kind of Ice Cube. You're so deep. Put her.
Yes.
No, we can't say that.
Boy.
Should Tyler and I go get tattoos tonight?
Yes. Yep. They should.
I'm down. You got a tattoo artist here in town?
No, in Tri-Cities I do.
Little SledSend logo.
Ooh,
Yeah, huh?
I would do it. I would
Honestly,
do it.
I'll get one with Smasher.
I'd be down. Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh, I do. No, I do a Tyler too.
we'll get it. We need to go get some sleds.
Although
Maybe
I've
like
been-
on our wrist or something. SledSend.
Having such an itch to get one. I don't even
That'd
have
be
a
sick.
tattoo, but
Really?
I don't. Yeah, it'd be a virgin.
We need
Tattoo.
to.
Yeah,
We
you
need.
have to get the one on your shirt.
No, right above the
back,
I would say right above the back,
Dude,
the lower back. Yeah.
I would get the sled on my wrist.
Yeah.
That would be kind of dope.
That would be pretty sick.
Do the double S.
Or that. Yeah, that one would be pretty cool
Is
too.
it too
That
bad?
one's
Can
gonna
we-
get- that one's
Blasted
Jeff,
on
can
my
we
back.
go live on this? We need a tattoo artist here over at SledSend ASAP stat.
get here.
I bet Alex Everett would pull up. He's the guy that did all my ink.
Let's get some tattoos. I'm down. I'm down.
Yeah,
Make it
I'll do
happen.
it.
He's thinking about it now.
Yeah, he kind of is, isn't he?
Yeah.
Still have a question?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking like
Think about Iron Dog.
Easy.
no,
easy.
something along the lines of like I just don't know if it's too complex of a question. Like my mind goes to what would your like I don't know if it's dumb or too simple, but like what would your if you were to sign up and run this race, like what would your gear list look like? Like as far as your combination of which climb pieces you would take, or if you're not a climb guy, you know, what would your stack be?
That's a good question because
Well, there's so many different
there's so many different options, and with the weather and boy, I'll tell you what, I wore every piece between Buckland and Kotzebue. I wore every piece of climb gear I had.
Yeah.
And it, 20 to 30 miles an hour riding, 40 miles an hour, and with the side wind, whew.
Yeah.
Like I was holding onto the bars so tight, and that my hands. Sorry, not to cut you off.
No.
That my hands were. Like when they get so hot. Like I still have scaly skin there. It's not from anything else. But they were.
Just start calling you Jeff.
Hairy hands over here.
They were glossy because I was so cold that I would hold onto the handlebars and think, okay, this is what my whole body feels like, and you would squeeze the sled with your legs, thinking you'd get warmer, but you wouldn't. And it has nothing to do with like climb gear is the best. Like I'm telling you, 100%. Like without a doubt, it is the best gear. But it was that bone chilling with that Arctic cold, and I'm wearing that Arctic. I can't even say it. Arctic face mask.
The balaclava.
Yeah, whatever.
I got you.
I call it the Greek name baklava.
Dude, have you ever had baklava?
Oh yeah, my best friend's Greek.
It rips.
I can speak Greek.
Really?
Yeah, I can't say it. Patamupipu putana. But anyways, yeah,
Siri.
it's it's bad. But anyways, yeah. So my hands got so glossy because it was so cold. So that's a great question, honestly.
Yeah. That or my next one would be like if you could only, like, obviously you guys have meals and stuff along the way, but if you could only pack one snack through that whole 7, 8, 9 day, 10-day trip, what's the one snack that you would bring with you for the Iron Dog?
So on that, when we left McGrath to Puntilla, it was 13 hours. So we ate in McGrath, and when we left, I didn't eat a whole lot. So I had these coffee beans from my buddy. Oh God, I'm so sorry. Espresso beans, but he gave me these chocolate covered espresso beans.
Oh, sure.
And I would eat them like a little at a time. When I got to Puntilla after 13 hours, I was so hungry. I ate 2 bags of M&Ms before I sat down, like the 2 bags of peanut M&Ms. Shoved them in my mouth like I was dying. The chick was like, "You all right?" And I was like, "I'm so hungry." I ate 2 bags of M&Ms. Not in order. 2 bags of potato chips, 5 Powerade, 6 glasses of water, 6 snickerdoodle cookies, and 2 bowls of pasta and sausage.
She's looking at you. Like,
because I was so hungry.
Yeah.
I was starving, and your body craves carbs.
Oh, sure.
Like craves carbs, and the amount of water. Like, not to keep going. I mean, I can keep going forever, but the amount of water and the carbs that you. It's nuts. Like, you just
Crazy.
Trail mix.
I was gonna say Rice Krispies or something.
You wouldn't bring rice cakes?
I was gonna say I feel like Jeff would be a rice cake.
you want to
person.
bring something that doesn't get hard because at 40 below everything turns like.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking about bringing those the honey graham cracker, the honey things, the honey bee.
Yep, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but those chocolate covered beans and gummy bears.
Yeah, what made you
it's
choose
quick.
gummy bears?
My buddy Anthony Alberti does those death hikes,
And that's what it's good to hit.
And he said take those because it's quick sugar. Don't eat beef jerky because it just sits in your stomach. So I would hack and I couldn't. And with the beard, cool beard. Thanks, bearded craftsman. I would shove my mouth. I could pull the hair apart, and I would shove as many of those gummy bears I could get in my mouth, so I didn't chew up my cheeks, and I would just suck on them as we were riding, hoping I wouldn't choke to death and die. Like, dude, Smasher is dead. You gotta keep going.
Death by gummy bear.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Thanks, Habaro.
Hey, and Dustin did get stuck outside of Ruby also in the overflow.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's on the internet.
Liability.
Yeah, Dustin, man. I'll probably lose my sponsorship. Derailed.
Do you have a
I don't.
question?
I have one for the next one though.
Okay.
I got you on the next
All right. So I want to end this episode in a unique way. First off, I want to say, Sled Talk listeners, thank you guys for tuning in. This has been an awesome part 2 with Chris Kaltenbacher. We're about to rip through another one. But I would like to end this episode. Is this camera still going, Jeff? Smasher, I would like for you to do the honors of being the first person to sign the SledSend banner here in the office.
Let's go, Smasher.
Dude.
Wherever you want, however big you want. I would suggest, just from a focal point, that
Right above the D and in between the S.
These?
Yeah, these.
Should I sign it big or small?
how big? Go for it.
Oh my God, it's beautiful.
Smasher number 1.
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna put Team 77. It's my
There we
Iron
go.
Dog number.
There we go.
I like it.
Heck yeah.
You know what? I don't even.
There it is.
There it is. We gotta do a live.
Are you going live or just doing a story?
Oh, we gotta do a story, but it's
Okay.
gotta be live. Apparently, you gotta discard.
The last one.
Yeah. So here we are live with the sled film guys.
Hell yeah.
Oh, geez, we got to do it
Take
again.
2.
No way.
Take 2.
Here we are with the SledSend guys.
Hey,
SledSend.
What's up?
I'm the first person to sign a SledSend banner.
Top dog, baby.
Top dog. Oh. The Iron Dog.
Top dog, a.k.a. Iron Dog.
That was good.
Team 7.
Oh,
A
man.
little longer good.
Oh, perfect, dude. I don't care.
That was an hour and 15 minutes.
I think that's
Honey on the protect, living life with no regrets. I can't designer when I get dressed. Summertime on winter fresh. I put her legs behind her head. Night she gone to bed. Bye bye. Every day it's a new test. I just keep chasing these chicks. Living life with no